The cameras flash. The crowd freezes. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Imagine landing a role on the biggest, most talked about television show of the decade. You become an absolute fan favorite overnight, and then, at the height of it all, you just decide to walk away.
It completely disrupts the narrative we are, constantly sold about fame.
Right, exactly. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And this story is a big one. We are so conditioned to expect actors to just cling to a hit show with everything they have. Swallowing whatever script they're handed just to keep their spot on the billboard.
Which is exactly why today we are doing a deep dive into the massive headline of the week. She refused to be the fat best friend. We are pulling apart the reality behind Barbie Ferreira and her exit from HBO's juggernaut, Euphoria. Our mission today is to look at a stack of sources, including her super candid sit-downs on Armchair Expert, the Vile Files, a recent career-spanning piece in Collider, and just, the general timeline of her career.
Right, because we want to explore how she flat out refused to be boxed into a Hollywood stereotype.
Precisely. And the timing for this exploration is critical. Because right now, in April 2026, the long-delayed third season of Euphoria has finally premiered.
Finally. I mean, it took forever.
Seriously. And the show executed this 5-year time jump, taking these incredibly messy characters out of high school and into adulthood. But for anyone watching that premiere, there was just this glaring omission.
Oh, it was so obvious. Kat Hernandez, Barbie's character, wasn't just off screen. She was entirely unmentioned.
Right. It was as if she never existed at all.
Which really forces us to look backward and unpack the mechanics of why she isn't there.
Exactly. So to understand the exit, we really need to look at the entrance. In season 1 of Euphoria, Kat was just a revelation for the audience.
She really was.
We're introduced to her as this somewhat insecure, plus-size teenager who suddenly, embraces her body, discovers her sexuality, and builds an entire confident, boundary-pushing cam girl empire.
Yeah, it was universally praised. I mean, it felt like a completely new iteration of body positivity on screen.
It did.
Because it gave a plus-size teenage character unfiltered agency. If we look at the historical context of television, characters who look like Kat are traditionally just relegated to a very specific, utilitarian function in the script.
Right. They're the punchline.
Exactly. Or they're the supportive sidekick whose sole purpose is to just absorb the emotional distress of the conventionally thinner main characters. But Kat was driving her own incredibly complex, sometimes very dark narrative.
But then we roll into season 2 and the character just shrinks.
Mm.
The bold, unapologetic Kat is suddenly totally sidelined. She's reduced to having these awkward, stagnant conversations about a boyfriend she doesn't really like.
Oh my gosh, those scenes were so frustrating to watch.
So frustrating. And mostly she's just standing in the background while her friends Maddie and Cassie scream at each other. As a viewer, it honestly felt like a continuity error.
Well, it felt that way to the actress, too. If we look at the source material, specifically her interviews on Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert and her later reflections with Collider, she is very clinical about this shift.
Yeah.
She explicitly stated she felt her role was, in her own words, diminishing.
Yeah.
She recognized that her potential as an actress was being actively capped.
Wow.
And the thesis of her departure really comes down to that specific headline we talked about. She stated very clearly that she did not want to play the fat best friend.
I want to pause on that phrase for a second. The fat best friend. Because it's so pervasive in media, what does that actually mean mechanically for an actor who is trying to build a career?
Mechanically. It means you have zero personal stakes in the story. Screen time is a zero-sum game, right? If a show has an hour to tell a story, writers use tropes as lazy shorthand to save time.
That makes sense.
The fat best friend is just a narrative device. They exist to deliver exposition, hand the protagonist a tissue, or crack a self-deprecating joke to break the tension.
Right. They do not get character arcs.
Exactly. They do not get growth. Ferreira told Dax Shepard she felt the showrunners ultimately just didn't know how to write her outside of that specific limiting box.
Yeah.
And she made a very astute observation about Euphoria creator Sam Levinson. She said, Sam writes for things that he relates to. I don't think he relates to Kat.
Okay, let me challenge that a bit, though. Euphoria is famous for what the industry calls the auteur model, right?
Yes.
Where Levinson writes and directs almost everything himself. Isn't a singular, unified vision supposed to be the hallmark of prestige television? Like, why wouldn't a writer of a hit show just consult with the actor to bridge that gap?
Well, that is the double-edged sword of the auteur model. For the listener who might not be familiar with how television is usually developed, a traditional writer's room has maybe 10 or 15 different writers sitting around a table. They pitch ideas, they argue, and, crucially, they bring diverse life experiences to the script. They act as a system of checks and balances.
Which the auteur model totally removes.
Exactly. It's like hiring a highly skilled visionary architect to design a massive commercial restaurant kitchen, but the architect has literally never cooked a meal in their life.
That is a great analogy.
It doesn't matter how brilliant the vision is. Without input from an actual chef, the workflow is going to fail.
That makes perfect sense. So when you have a show focusing on the deeply nuanced, highly specific experiences of a confident, plus-size teenage girl, and it's all bottlenecked through the perspective of one male writer who doesn't share that lived experience.
Blind spots are inevitable.
Completely. And when the writer hits that blind spot, instead of allowing the actor to collaborate and fill in the gaps, the character just languished.
Yeah, she just ended up standing in the background.
Which creates a massive vacuum of information for the audience. And as we know, nature abhors a vacuum, especially in the entertainment industry.
Oh, absolutely.
When a hit show inexplicably benches a fan favorite, the rumor mill steps in to write the script. Just reading through the reports from the filming of season 2, the media painted a picture of a deeply chaotic, toxic workplace.
Yes, the reports were relentless. Like claims of 17-hour shoot days, actors allegedly not being allowed to take adequate bathroom breaks.
Ugh, horrible.
And rumors of the director using highly intense, sometimes combative tactics to elicit emotional performances from the young cast.
And right in the center of all that alleged chaos was the most damaging rumor of all regarding Barbie. The media claims she threw a massive tantrum, got into a screaming match with Levinson, and dramatically stormed off the set.
A very specific, highly gendered narrative to attach to a young woman asserting her boundaries, don't you think?
Oh, exactly. But she completely dismantled that narrative when she went on the Vial Files in March 2025. She addressed it head on. She just said, quote, "I never walked off set."
Wait, really?
Yeah. You know what the actual mechanism of that rumor was? She sprained her ankle.
You are kidding me, an ankle sprain.
I'm serious. She sprained her ankle and had to leave the set to go get an x-ray.
Wow. It's just a fascinating look at how information gets distorted. A medical necessity is twisted through the Hollywood gossip machine until it emerges as a story of female hysteria.
Right. Wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second on behalf of the listener.
Okay.
If the set was allegedly as chaotic and exhausting as the reports claimed, isn't it possible an ankle sprain was just a convenient excuse to get out of a high-pressure environment for the day?
I mean, it's certainly possible that the physical toll of a grueling shoot exacerbated a minor injury, or that she, welcomed the medical break.
Yeah.
But the actual truth of her physical pain isn't what the tabloids were interested in. The issue is the systemic leap the media made. It is always easier and honestly more profitable to label a young woman as difficult or a diva than to investigate a powerful male showrunner's production environment.
They just default to blaming the actress.
Every single time.
And if you think that media spin is wild, wait until you hear how she actually countered it. That is coming up. Because her PR strategy here is really a masterclass.
It really is.
She didn't get into a mudslinging contest in the press while the show was airing and emotions were high. She waited.
Smart.
She waited until August 2022, and she posted this very graceful goodbye on her Instagram. She called it a teary-eyed departure and framed her exit as a mutual decision. She explicitly said she didn't want to linger around a set for 9 months ruining a good thing when there was nowhere left for her character's story to go.
We have to look at that Instagram post objectively as a highly strategic defense mechanism.
Totally.
Whether the set was actively toxic or just creatively stifling, she managed the fallout perfectly. By framing her departure as a mutual creative decision, like a choice made because she wasn't artistically fulfilled, she shielded her professional reputation.
Yeah, she didn't let the studio fire her.
Right, and she didn't quit in a blaze of glory that would scare off future directors. She just respectfully closed the door.
If you're loving these Hollywood twists and masterclasses in PR, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
But hold on, I have a question about that closed door.
Hit me.
Doesn't leaving the show just give the showrunner exactly what he wanted? If he didn't want to write for her character anymore, didn't she just quietly hand him a victory by stepping down without a fight?
Well, that's a really valid question. It might look like a retreat on the surface, but in the long game of a Hollywood career, fighting to stay in a room where you aren't valued is a losing battle.
That's true.
If she had stayed and fought, she would have spent another 9 months of her life playing a diminished background character, and that would just solidify her status as the fat best friend in the eyes of casting directors everywhere.
Ah, I see.
By leaving, she reclaimed her agency. She decided her own value rather than letting the script dictate it.
Okay, so she protects her reputation with a polite public statement. But polite or not, she is still out of a job.
And leaving a tentpole HBO show without a backup plan is usually career suicide. If you don't have a safety net, you are forced right back into those exact same fat best friend auditions just to pay your rent.
Exactly.
Which begs the question, how was she able to just walk away from the golden handcuffs of a massive network paycheck?
Well, to understand her leverage, you have to look backward at the timeline of her career.
Okay.
Long before she ever read a script for Kat Hernandez, Barbie Ferreira was already shifting culture. In 2016, as a teenager, she went viral for modeling in an Aerie campaign.
Oh, I remember that. And these were unretouched photos.
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't remember the landscape of fashion in 2016, seeing a plus-size teenager in a major national ad campaign without airbrushing was a massive cultural pivot.
It was huge. It was a pivot that landed her on Time magazine's 30 Most Influential Teens list.
Wow.
And the reason this matters mechanically to her acting career is that she built a highly successful fashion and modeling platform entirely on her own terms. She cultivated a loyal audience before HBO ever capitalized on her appeal.
Which gives her alternative income streams.
Bingo.
And this brings us to how she intentionally structures her business today, as she laid out in that April 2026 Collider interview. She deliberately avoids the massive Hollywood machinery.
Yeah, she told them she intentionally stays with a small boutique agency. She works with a tight-knit team, her agent Jesse, her manager, her publicist, who just understand that she operates differently.
We should define why that choice of agency matters for the listener.
Yeah, definitely. So when an actor signs with an industry giant like CAA or WME, the business model of those agencies relies on high volume and massive paydays.
Right.
They take their 10% cut, which means they're highly incentivized to push their clients into blockbuster superhero movies or long-running network shows, regardless of the artistic merit of the role.
Right, because 10% of an indie film budget doesn't keep the lights on at a mega agency.
Yep. Exactly. A boutique agency is structured differently. They have lower overhead and can afford to nurture a client-specific vision, especially if that client is bringing in substantial revenue from other avenues, like modeling.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah, because she uses her highly lucrative fashion career to pay her bills and fund her lifestyle. She holds an almost unheard-of privilege in Hollywood. She never has to take an acting job out of financial desperation.
She actually said, quote, "I never do an acting job for money, ever, and I want to keep it that way."
It completely flips the traditional power dynamic.
It really does. Usually, actors are totally beholden to the studios for their livelihood. They have to swallow their pride and accept diminishing roles because they have a mortgage to pay.
Right.
She realized that her modeling assets could buy her ultimate goal, which isn't fame. It's absolute creative freedom.
She weaponized her alternative income to invert the power structure. She goes where the art is because the survival aspect is already handled.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button because you will not believe the kinds of roles the strategy is allowing her to take right now.
So good.
Look at her slate for April 2026. She is starring in Faces of Death, which is this psychological thriller where she plays a content moderator who uncovers a snuff ring.
Dark, but amazing.
Right. Then she has Mile End Kicks, a film where she plays a music critic, and she actually executive produced that one.
Wow.
And this is all following her roles in Jordan Peele's Nope and the Prime Video thriller House of Spoil.
Notice the types of roles those are, though.
Yeah.
A content moderator diving into a dark mystery, a music critic, an executive producer.
Very different from Euphoria.
Exactly. These are active, driving roles. They are the exact opposite of the passive, supportive, fat best friend trope she was trying to escape.
I find this approach incredibly satisfying. It is literally like someone keeping a high-level corporate day job strictly so they can afford to play in a local indie rock band on the weekend.
Yes.
Without ever having to worry about selling out to a major record label, she is funding her passion for independent cinema with her fashion empire.
It is a phenomenal example of recognizing your own leverage. When a situation, even a highly prestigious, globally recognized situation like Euphoria, stopped serving her growth, she refused to let the prestige trap her.
Yeah.
She didn't buy into the illusion that she had to suffer for the art or suffer for the exposure.
Which brings us to the core takeaways we really want you to absorb from this deep dive into the sources. Barbie Ferreira didn't just walk away from a television show. She identified a systemic Hollywood trope that demeaned her talent, and she refused to participate in it.
Mhm.
She navigated a predatory rumor mill, not with outrage, but with an objective, strategic grace that protected her future. And most importantly, she engineered an ecosystem where her art is never compromised by her need to survive.
Which is a framework I think everyone listening can apply to their own lives,
Yeah,
regardless of the industry you work in.
absolutely.
It prompts a real evaluation. Are you staying in a diminishing role, whether that is a corporate job or relationship or a creative endeavor simply for the prestige, or because you feel financially trapped? And what would it actually look like if you took stock of your current strengths, your own version of a fashion career, and leveraged those alternative assets to buy your own freedom?
That is the exact kind of self-reflection this story demands. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final lingering question to ponder long after we sign off.
Let's hear it.
We started by talking about the Euphoria Season 3 premiere and how the writers made the choice to completely ignore Kat Hernandez's absence.
Yeah.
But think about the legacy of that role. If an actor breathes vibrant, groundbreaking life into a character, shifting the cultural conversation, and then bravely walks away to protect their peace and their potential, does that character ultimately belong to the writer who stubbornly erased her from the script? Or does she belong to the audience who, for the very first time, finally saw themselves on screen?
Ooh, that's a great question.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.